Japanese helicopter carrier set to escort U.S. Navy ship for the first time. Japan's aircraft carrier-like destroyer left Yokosuka Naval Base on Monday to escort a U.S. supply vessel. This is the first time Japan's Navy has made this kind of deployment after new legislation was passed allowing for such action. Japan's JS Izumo helicopter carrier is 814 feet long and weighs 27,000 tons when fully loaded. It is the largest warship in Japan. It is shorter than China's Liaoning aircraft carrier and the USS George H.W. Bush. The JS Izumo is armed with 3 Phalanx CIWS point defense guns and 2 SeaRAM last-ditch interceptor missiles. The vessel normally carries 7 SH-60J anti-submarine warfare helicopters. For decades, Japan's constitution forbade the country's self-defense forces from rendering aid to allies. However, the country enacted new security legislation last March, expanding the scope of the self-defense forces' overseas missions. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews. The US and Japan have long had each other's backs. Military allies test missile defenses. The US and Japan have conducted a successful missile interception test with an interceptor launched from a guided missile destroyer. The test took place on Friday night off Kauai in the Hawaiian archipelago. A medium-range ballistic missile target was launched from the Pacific Missile Range facility on the island. The USS John Paul Jones detected the target with its onboard radar, then successfully intercepted the target with its Aegis missile defense system. The US Navy has 62 guided missile destroyers equipped with the Aegis system, while Japan owns 6.
US and Japan forged new rules to expand military cooperation. Newly revised US-Japan guidelines for defense cooperation agreed upon in New York on Monday will change the way that Japan's military operates worldwide. Japan's current defense strategy is defensive in nature and limited to deploying forces only if Japan is directly attacked. But China's rising military might and North Korea's instability has raised concerns in Japan. The revision of the US-Japan Defense Cooperation Guidelines alter this by allowing Japan to come to the defense of other countries if it is deemed in Japan's interest. The guidelines will allow Japan to help defend US ships in waters surrounding Japan, and the use of Japan's missile defense system to intercept weapons launched at the United States, even if Japan itself is not under attack. The new guidelines will also streamline information and weapons sharing and allow for Japan and the US to engage in joint surveillance and reconnaissance operations. The US will deploy US Navy P-8 surveillance planes as well as Air Force Global Hawk drones to Japan this year. The US will also replace the Japan-based carrier USS George Washington with the more advanced USS Ronald Reagan. During the meeting, the US restated its position that the disputed Senkaku Islands claimed by both Tokyo and Beijing are under the administration of Japan and fall within the scope of the US-Japan Mutual Defense Treaty. US Navy to deploy MQ-4C TRITON surveillance drone to Okinawa. The US Navy has announced plans to deploy the high-tech TRITON surveillance drone to Japan's Okinawa prefecture, the Chief of Naval Operations said on Tuesday. The MQ-4C TRITON unmanned surveillance aircraft is expected to be deployed to Japan after its development is complete. The aircraft system, which will be integrated into maritime patrols as well as search and rescue missions, can reach altitudes higher than 10 miles and fly up to 30 hours in a single mission, covering 1 million square nautical miles of ocean. The drone is equipped with electro-optical, infrared and radar sensors with a 360-degree field of vision. The MQ-4C is expected to support the Navy's existing P-8 surveillance planes in maritime surveillance operations. The Navy said it aims to deploy the aircraft to Okinawa by the end of 2017. The TRITON was developed by Northrop Grumman under a $1.16 billion contract awarded by the US Department of Defense.
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews.
US to send additional anti-missile ships to Japan. US Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has announced plans to deploy 2 additional anti-ballistic missile ships to Japan within the next 3 years. North Korea has test-fired a series of mid-range missiles in recent months, missiles believed to have a maximum range of 1,300 kilometers. In response to North Korean launches, the US says it will deploy 2 additional missile defense warships to Japan by 2017, bringing the total to 7. The ships are equipped with Aegis ballistic missile defense capabilities, which can detect and intercept ballistic missiles. The American Defense Secretary says the deployment of additional ships is meant to reinforce America's commitment to Japan's security, a nation that already hosts some 50,000 US troops. Also, in response to perceived North Korean aggression, the US has announced plans to beef up ground-based missile defense systems in Alaska. North Korea's mid-range missiles are believed to have a maximum range of 1,300 kilometers, while its long-range missiles could hit targets as far as 6,000 kilometers away.